to go.
Hi guys, this is Miss Kaufman and Miss Whiteside, and we are here with our first video of what will end up being the last unit of study in 8th grade science. Woohoo! Okay, yeah, we're excited as much as you guys are, okay? And we have completely switched gears where we have been studying about the earth for about half of the school year. We are beginning a unit on physics, and particularly motion and force. So we are going to start out. We have a really short, very short little study guide that goes with this, because there's not a whole lot on this that you're going to have to know for your state test. So we've kind of cut out all the fluff in this. So to begin with, you just finished up doing a lab where we marked off 10-meter distances and 5-meter distances out in the hall, and you were asked to do things like speed walk, walk slow, I think one was heel toe, and then we showed you how to take the distance that you walked and divide it by the time to get the speed that you were walking in. So this is going to kind of be the first actual lesson or presentation on that kind of thing. So remember what I've told you before. If there's a number circled, or if I put like a pound sign and then the number, that means there's a definition. And number one on this study guide is motion. And motion is the change of positions over time. A change in position is evidence that motion has happened. And if, for example, you're sitting in the back seat of your mama's car and she stopped at a red light and there's a car next to her, if you're looking down, if you see the car first of all and then you look down, and then the next time you look up, the car's not there, even if you didn't see the motion, the fact that there's a change in the position of that vehicle is evidence that motion has occurred, okay? And here is going to be our actual definition for the term speed. All right, this is number 3 on your study guide. Speed is a measure of how quickly or slowly an object changes position. It is the distance an object travels in a unit of time, and I've given you an example here, 5 meters per second. And guys, in science, rather than writing this all out like this, because that takes forever, most of the time we use a lowercase m to represent meters. If you're going to show miles, what we typically do is a lowercase mi. Okay, that's how we keep that straight. But in this case, it's going to be meters per second. M/S is the short version of meters per second. I want you, in my class for sure, to write it like that. I don't have to read all that stuff for long. A faster object moves farther than a slower moving object would in the same amount of time. The greater the speed of an object has, the faster it changes position. The formula for calculating speed is equal to distance over, or in other words, distance divided by time. All right. I do want you to add this definition to your study guide. I got to looking at this and I thought this needed to really be on there. So this study guide only goes to 14. So just go in there and drop down below 14 and add 15 to it. Average speed. Average speed is the total distance traveled divided by the total time it takes to travel that distance. And in the next lesson, when we start learning about distance time graphs, I'm going to show you how this is somewhat different than just plain old calculating speed, especially when it comes to a distance time graph, okay? This is the equation for calculating speed. Speed is equal to distance over time. If you don't understand what that is, it's speed is equal to distance divided by time. And by the way, you will be allowed to use calculators all the way through this because it's kind of heavy on the math. All right, I'm going to explain what this is. And I've heard this called a DST triangle. I like to call it a tricky triangle because it's got some tricks that will help you when it comes to doing the math. And I am all for anything that makes math easier for me when it comes to science.
We call it the magic triangle.
The magic triangle,
Yeah.
that's a good one too. All right, so if you'll do this, I need you, those of you that are in my room, I need you to make this great big on one whole sheet of paper in your science folder, and I'm sure that Miss Whiteside wants you guys to do it in your binders. Okay?
Yes.
And it's just a great big triangle like this. You're going to divide it off into 3 compartments. The top one is kind of big, looks like a triangle, and then you'll run a line down there to separate the bottom 2. Place a big fat D up in the top one, an S in the lower left, and a T in the lower right. Then, I have listed what the D stands for, distance. I've also listed how we measure distance, meters or feet, or we might do miles. There's going to be numerous distance units that we can use. And then in speed, I put that, the S stands for speed. Here are some examples of how we measure speed. Meters per second, miles per hour. Those are examples. And then the big capital T stands for time. And some units of time that we may use are seconds, minutes, or hours. I don't think we use any others besides that. And if you'll notice, I have a multiplication sign in between the S and the T, and I've placed divide signs in between the D and the S and the D and the T. And I'm going to explain what that's for here in just a minute. I'll give you just a second to get that copied down. All right, you can actually pause the video if you need to. I want to give you a couple of examples of what this is good for, okay? You're going to be given a worksheet here in just a few minutes if you're at school, and if you're at home, you'll get it when you get back to school, where you're going to have to use this triangle to help you figure out how to calculate not just speed, but distance and time when given the other 2 values. All right, and I'm going to do one that's real easy. This is the first one on the worksheet. It says if you ran 50 meters in 20 seconds, what was your average speed? Well, the question asks for speed. So if it's going to ask for speed, and I don't know what the speed is, I'm going to cover the S up because that's what I don't know. And this triangle is going to tell me how to set this math problem up. The distance we said was, what was the distance? Oh yeah, 50 meters, okay, so there's my distance. And it's over 20 seconds. I didn't have to figure that out. All I had to know is how to use this triangle. Whatever I'm solving for is the thing I'm going to cover up, and I plug the other 2 values in, and it shows me how to do this math. Okay, so then, let me get the calculator out. 50 divided by 20 is equal to, my answer is going to end up being 2.5 meters per second. Okay, that's how I would use that triangle to calculate for speed. If the question asks me to solve for distance, then I'm going to cover that up. And now instead of doing a divide problem, I'm going to take whatever the speed and the time is and multiply them together. If I'm asked for a time, then I'm going to cover the T up. And now it's going to show me its distance divided by speed. So if you know how to use triangle, you won't have any problems at all doing the work on this worksheet. Okay. The next video we make, we're going to be talking about velocity a little bit. And velocity is the exact same thing as speed. It just includes a direction, okay? So here's your definition for number 4. Velocity is a speed in a specific direction. And technically, if you're solving for velocity, you should give the speed as well as the direction. That doesn't always happen in some of these 8th grade textbooks that we've used in the past, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And that is the end of lesson 1.